Good day, everybody. We're going to be doing part 3 of the Barry Morphew arrest affidavit. Hope everybody's doing well, having an awesome morning. I'm going to get going here. It's such a lengthy document, and there's a lot to cover. We last left off with some information about Suzanne's phone and her iCloud accounts. We are going to continue with Suzanne's Verizon return. All right. Per location coordinates received from the search warrants served on Suzanne's Verizon account, S.A. Gershing determined that she traveled to Florida, staying in various hotels in Naples and Marco Island between January 31st, 2020 and February 16th, 2020. She communicated primarily with Sheila Oliver, Barry, Gene Moorman, and Kurt Ziegler. On May 5th, 2020, Suzanne's texts and locations confirmed her trip to Gunnison to drop off blank so that blank and blank could travel together. On May 6, 2020 at 8:44 a.m., Suzanne sent blank a text, "Good morning, I miss you already." Her next message was to Barry at 10:13 a.m., stating, "I'm done. I could care less what you're up to and have been for years. We just need to figure this out civilly." And that particular text was deleted from Barry's phone. On May 6, 2020, from 2:43 p.m. to 5 p.m., Barry sent her the suicide texts, which he deleted from his phone. On May 7th, 2020, Suzanne sent blank videos of the cat, Lulu, from inside the Morphew house and exchanged messages with her. On May 7th, 2020, at 4:43 p.m., Suzanne messaged Barry, "Been studying all afternoon. I'm going to bike now. I've got veggie soup on for supper." I must say I haven't heard the word supper in a long time. Good old-fashioned one. On May 8th, 2020, at 7:02 a.m., Suzanne's notes folder was last backed up, wherein she articulated over 50 grievances against Barry, one of which refers to Barry accusing her on May 6th of having a boyfriend. On May 8th, 2020, at 8:43 a.m., Suzanne sent Barry the message, "Sorry, I forgot about Rob Mazzell last night, but I will continue to do your invoicing when you need to." And there's a side note to that, basically stipulates this text of Suzanne's offer to continue to do your invoicing follows her May 6th text request to handle this civilly and her numerous attempts to separate from Barry. Her subsequent text to her sister Melinda indicates she let the mistreatment continue for too long and she was moving in a different direction. When FBI agents showed Barry these texts during interviews in 2021, he said he did not think Suzanne was serious. On May 8th, from 9:01 a.m. to 9:28 a.m., Suzanne messaged Melinda Beaumont, "It's hard dealing with the harsh abrasiveness and having to show respect. He's also been abusive emotionally and physically." Now moving on to Suzanne's Instagram account. S.A. Gershing interviewed Robin Binford, a friend of Suzanne's from Indiana, on June 30th, 2020. Binford has known Suzanne Morphew since middle school and was her close friend through high school. She and Suzanne have consistently communicated through Facebook and Instagram over the years. Binford stated that she had some problems with the way Suzanne supposedly went missing based on Suzanne's normal routines. On Saturday, before the weekend Suzanne went missing, she posted an Instagram story video about her and blank, stating that blank always surprised her. Suzanne used the Instagram story to take photos to document each of her bike rides. Binford said that upon hearing that Suzanne went missing, she checked Instagram and found that Suzanne did not post anything about the ride. Binford knew that Suzanne was still grieving over losing her mother within the past 2 years or so, and that Mother's Day was going to be a difficult day for her. Binford did not think that Suzanne would choose to spend that day without her girls and husband. From a review of Suzanne Morphew's Instagram account, obtained through a search warrant in the state of Colorado, the attached pictures of her, often in biking outfits, were located with the dates 5/6/2020, 4:30 p.m. with location Little Rainbow Trail, 4/27/2020, 4:36 p.m. with location Mount Shavano, 4/20/2020, 2:18 p.m. Mountain Standard Time with location of Methodist Mountain, captions first single track and broke my first chain with a smiling emoji. The search warrant for blank, per the Verizon warrant served on blank cell phone, the following messages was sent from blank on blank blank on May 10th, 2020 at 3:50 p.m. over an hour before Martin Ritter reported her missing. I'm just so sad, blank, and I texted Mom for Mother's Day and she still hasn't answered and I'm scared. Her and Dad probably got in a big fight and I don't even know. It just made me want to be gone even more because I don't want to be around them if it hurts me. And I know if blank is working, I might have to be home a lot more and it'll probably be the worst summer of my life. Scratches on Barry's arm. On May 13th, 2020, CCSO Deputy Caricado took pictures of scratches on Barry's left arm. There's a picture here in the documentation, a little hard to see, blurry in my opinion. You could possibly see a couple marks. Can't tell the condition of the marks whatsoever, really, in the blurry photo. The canine search on May 23rd, 2020. On May 23rd, 2020, search teams along with canines and canine handlers, bloodhound man trackers, Necker searched the 19507 Puma Path property. During the search, 3 different canines were used. Each of the 3 canines.
Stacey, so good of you to join us to kind of go into what exactly.
Oh, hold on, guys.
Now, because the search there
I'm going to take a little
nature preserve for Brian Laundrie has concluded for the
moment here. Just give me a second.
What do you expect going into tomorrow?
Well, Andrew, they're going to continue to search.
Sorry about that. We got our document up and rolling here.
What exactly do you think they would be looking for, particularly? Because
all right.
We're there all day today. We know this is, 25.
During the search, 3 different canines were used. Each of the 3 canines were ran blindly and individually during the search. On the west area of the driveway parking area, where a flatbed trailer and Bobcat skid steer are parked, all 3 canines trained final response, alerted, and in parentheses, the canines used have been trained in a specific way to alert their handlers when they detect possible human decomp or remains. So they alerted on the top of the trailer. It should be noted, on the bed of the trailer, there is gravel and dirt. This is an area the canines alerted. All 3 canines again alerted on the Bobcat, and one of the canines jumped into the Bobcat and tried to lay down on the driver's seat. The Bobcat located on the Morphew's property is identified as a 2018 Bobcat compact skid steer, model number S590, and product identifier number are also indicated. The flatbed trailer and Bobcat skid steer are parked directly next to each other. The Bobcat Sim Removal. On May 28th, 2020, Deputy Randy Caricado, with the assistance of FBI SA David Donati, removed the SIM card subscriber identity module from the Cal Amp device. This is the device Agent Graham learned about that Barry had on his Bobcat. This device utilizes Verizon Connect services and is a GPS tracking device. S.A. Hoyland spoke with S.A. Donati and requested a search warrant be applied for to obtain what data the SIM card may contain. At present, Barry's use of the Bobcat does not appear to be connected to Suzanne's disappearance. Did anybody ever have any idea that a Bobcat could have a GPS tracking device in it? I had no knowledge of that. New to me. Of course, I've never driven a Bobcat, so extremely interesting. Seems about everything these days has some sort of location device, GPS, computer systems, etc. in it. Moving on to bank accounts. On May 20, 2020, your affiant served search warrants to Equifax and TransUnion to identify what credit accounts Suzanne and Barry would have currently and or at the time frame of Suzanne's disappearance. This information was necessary to establish a pattern of life for both Suzanne and Barry, as well as proof of life for Suzanne. On May 28, 2020, Equifax and TransUnion provided the following: are open and active accounts for Suzanne and Barry. Some of this doesn't read very well, meaning the appropriate English per se is a little wonky. So the following accounts are active accounts for Suzanne and Barry. 1, Indiana Members Credit Union. 2, Capital One Cabela's. Number 3, Discover. Number 4, Community Bank / Victoria's Secret. Number 5, Fifth Third Bank. And the last one, number 6, Credit One. Your affiant has served warrants on these accounts, and results are being compiled and analyzed by the FBI and a private forensic accountant. The Indiana Members Credit Union. On June 6, 2020, your affiant served via email a search warrant to Indiana Members Credit Union requesting banking records for the Morphews. On June 9, 2020, your affiant received via email from Deborah Morelli, Loss Prevention Manager, the requested records for the Morphews account. With the records, there is documentation that on June 5th, 2020, Barry called the bank and requested his email address be changed from blank to blank. Collegiate Peaks Bank. Per search warrant served by your affiant on Collegiate Peaks Bank on May 26, 2020, Barry withdrew $5,846.22 in the Suzanne Morphew Foundation account, which brought the balance to $0. The account was opened on March 5th, 2020, with a deposit of $5,800. That account was only open a couple months. Money deposited and then every bit of it withdrawn. Possible second device for Barry. On June 11, 2020, your affiant received information from FBI S.A. Gershing and computer scientist Brian Turner that while reviewing the data from the cell phone extraction of Barry's iPhone, they found a second device. The user ID numbers listed. Identifier plus blank was associated with Barry's iPhone with an SMS at 3:44 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on May 8th, 2020. This user ID is separate from the primary user ID number. The second device was first issued on November 30th, 2019, and was associated with Barry's iPhone 91 times since then, compared to 1,701 associations with the primary user ID since November 2019. Dates this device was associated with Barry's iPhone since May 5th, 2020. From 5/5/2020 through 5/12/2020, there's a list of dates and times. As of this present date, the second device has not been identified. FBI proof of life fugitive searches. Per the request of FBI S.A. Gershing, with the assistance of the FBI Safe Streets Task Force, the following searches were done through the FBI and its federal partners in attempts to locate Suzanne as if she was a fugitive or missing person. On August 26, 2020, Agent Brian Palmer, Homeland Security's Investigations, HSI, Denver, Colorado, checked border crossings for Suzanne Morphew or Suzanne R. Moorman. Suzanne R. Morphew or Suzanne R. Moorman. Date of birth 4/30/1971. blank and provided the following text. And there's a picture of Suzanne. And the note to this is the photo of Suzanne was used for the FBI request sent to HSI and other entities named in this section. I don't have any land border crossings for her. The last travel I have for her was returning from San Jose, Mexico to Dallas, Texas on 12/2/2019 on American Airlines flight number 1385. On August 25th, 2020, FBI SA Martin Daniel requested flight information from a national airlines reporting agency and found flights for Suzanne on July 24th, 2019, July 28th, 2019, August 13th, 2019, and August 17th, 2019. More flights were located for Suzanne Moorman in April 2020, but this person did not appear to be identical to Suzanne. That's intriguing. On August 24th, 2020, Patricia Ellswick, Technical Information Specialist, FBI, CGIS Division, Global Law Enforcement Support Section, NCIC Operations and Policy Unit Investigative and Operational Assistance Group, provided emails of the offline records checks for any law enforcement queries of Suzanne. The spreadsheets provided multiple queries from Chaffee County Sheriff's Office, CCSO, and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI, from May 10th to the 12th, 2020. SHP Cheyenne blank queried her on May 13th, 2020, and Loveland Police Department blank queried her once on May 14th, 2020, both during the widespread news stories. Besides other CCSO, CBI, and FBI queries from the Colorado offices in June and July of 2020, the Okeechobee Sheriff's Office in Florida queried Suzanne Morphew, date of birth 4/30/1971, 3 times on July 10th, 2020. On August 25th, 2020, S.A. Gershing spoke with the dispatcher operator Joanne for Okeechobee Sheriff's Office and learned that the CBI requested a welfare check for Suzanne Morphew because of the Okeechobee address for her father, Gene Moorman. Suzanne was not located. Wyoming State Highway Patrol Dispatch and Loveland PD Dispatch confirmed to S.A. Gershing on September 1st, 2020, that they had no contact with Suzanne, but were simply running an attempt to locate based upon CCSO's entry. On August 25th, 2020, FBI Operations Support Technician, OST Dana Plumhoff, provided the following checks per the request of S.A. Gershing. Nothing of significance in Suzanne's clear report. No activity seen tied to her since 2019. Suzanne R. Morphew Hope Foundation was the first filed in Indiana in 2012. It was registered as a nonprofit with Colorado Secretary of State on February 21st, 2020, by Barry Morphew at 19057 Puma Path, Salida, Colorado. OST Plumhoff further noted that as of May 11th, 2020, CCSO entered Suzanne as a missing person in the National Crime Information Center database. For checks in Accurate, nothing significant was found by OST Plumhoff for Suzanne besides her ties to the Puma Path address in Salida as of May of 2020. No electric or utilities were found in her name. Her Social Security number has not been used since May 2020. No new physical addresses or P.O. boxes for her name or Social Security were located, nor were any liens, judgments, or loans accrued under her name. On August 26, 2020, FBI SOS Kelly Rose Olson requested a nationwide facial analysis comparison and evaluation face services search for Suzanne Morphew using the above photo. This service, through issuances of visa and passports, driver's license photos from 18 states and the Department of Defense, DoD, Automated Biometric Identification System, ABIS. To date, none of these databases have provided any biometrics that match those of Suzanne. let's see here. These same checks for Suzanne's proof of life were conducted in March 2021 by the FBI with the same negative results. CBI lab results. On June 3rd, 2020, the CBI laboratory, hereafter CBI lab, provided the results of DNA analysis for the CCSO case 200000911. 65 evidence items to include DNA buccal swabs from the Morphew family members, Andrew Moorman, blank, and others were listed. Of note, no workable DNA was recovered from the Bobcat blade, the PNEU dart box, or the dryer. And they talked a lot about the Bobcat and the dogs seemingly indicating maybe that they found something on the Bobcat, but clearly here it says of note, no workable DNA was recovered from the Bobcat blade. On August 31st, 2020, S.A. Gershing reviewed the lab results with CBI lab forensic scientist Caitlin Rogers to discuss results relevant to this affidavit. The following items were noted. The DNA on the bicycle seat included a mixture of 4 people, Suzanne being the primary, with Barry and one of the responding CCSO personnel, Caricato, being included. The 4th male is unknown. A note to that, the mixture is at least 12 decillion times more likely to be observed if it originated from Barry Morphew, Caricato, Suzanne Morphew, and an unknown unrelated individual than if it originated from Suzanne Morphew and 3 unknown unrelated individuals. The DNA on the bicycle grips included a DNA mixture of 4 people, Suzanne and Sergeant Mullinax being primary contributors. Barry was excluded as a contributor. The DNA on the bicycle brakes and handlebars included a mixture of 4 people. Suzanne, Deputy Brown, and Deputy Himshoot were primary contributors. Barry was excluded. DNA information for the bicycle. A mixture on many different levels. And apparently, the officers, their prints and DNA was on the bike, so I suppose they were not wearing gloves or anything. That's kind of surprising. The front driver door of the 2015 white Land Rover, license plate CSU 581, was tested, and the DNA was consistent with samples from Barry and Suzanne. Blank and blank were excluded. And there's a notation here with that. The mixture is at least 40 sextillion times more likely to be observed if it originated from Barry Morphew and Suzanne Morphew than if it originated from 2 unknown, unrelated individuals. A plastic hypodermic cover collected from the dryer was tested by CBI for DNA. A low-level partial DNA mixture of 2 people was recovered, with Suzanne and blank being possible contributors. Barry was excluded as a contributor. A dart needle collected by CCSO, submitted as dart from box and garage, was swabbed and a partial DNA profile was developed, with Barry included as the contributor with moderate support. The dart body collected by CCSO, submitted as dart box from garage, was swabbed, and a low-level DNA profile referenced that blank could have been a contributor. The interior cushions of the helmet were tested for DNA, and a partial profile was developed. The mixture was more likely to involve Barry and Suzanne that coming from anybody else by a factor of 6.2 times. Barry's liquidation of assets. Within a month of Suzanne's disappearance, Barry began to liquidate their assets. On June 1st, 2020, Barry petitioned for guardianship in Hamilton County, Indiana, of Suzanne for him to act as her guardian. This filing allowed Barry to sign documents on Suzanne's behalf and sell their residences in Indiana and Colorado. Blank filed consent for the guardianship. Below are some screenshots of the court documents. And it basically is showing the petition for appointment of guardian over Suzanne Morphew, a missing person. The additional page to the petition and Barry's signature, basically, as petitioner in the case, requesting the court to give him guardianship over the estate. On June 6, 2020, Barry closed on the 26040 Cal Carson Road, Arcadia, Indiana property with a closing price of $750,000. Your affiant served Bank of the West a search warrant for accounts associated to Barry and Suzanne Morphew. For an account of blank and Barry Morphew blank, there is a deposit dated February 24th, 2020 for $40,000 from Monex. A side note to that is Suzanne's list of grievances cites a transaction such as this one involving Monex, and she mentions one involving blank to Liebler shortly before she disappears. On June 19th, 2020, there is a check written to Barry Morphew. The signer appears to be blank in the amount of $30,000. On July 1st, 2020, Kent Townsend told your affiant that on June 25th, 2020, Barry paid $160,000 for the Lot 8 property at Longhorn Ranch in Salida. Barry sold this back to Townsend on February 17th, 2021 for $150,000. On July 13th, 2020, Barry initiated a title change for Suzanne's Range Rover, selling it to Troy and Elizabeth Riley of Deputy, Indiana on July 16th, 2020. On March 3rd, 2021, the Recorder's Office in Salida informed your affiant that they had just received a special warranty deed on the 19057 Puma Path, had sold to Mountain Renewal LLC for $1,625,000. Let's see. Section 5, interviews. Morgan interview, May 14th, 2020. On May 14th, 2020, Colorado Bureau of Investigations, CBI, agents Kevin Kobach and Jason Cahill conducted a consensual recorded interview with Morgan Ann Gentile in Salida, Colorado. Morgan stated that around July 2019, she returned to Salida and started work at Diesland Structures, Inc., DSI. She first met Barry through DSI and they've worked together frequently. In January 2020, Morgan was terminated from DSI over allegations she used illegal drugs, though she asserted she did not use drugs. After she was terminated, Barry hired her as a contractor for his company, Sunset Farms Landscaping. Barry frequently talks to Morgan about his 2 daughters. He has never spoken of any marital or other family issues. Barry told Morgan about the Broomfield job sometime in mid-April 2020. Morgan stated the job was supposed to take place between April 23rd, 2020. However, she was not sure of the exact date. Barry then changed the job to take place on or about the first week of May. Barry then rescheduled the job to begin on May 11th, 2020. Morgan stated on May 8th, 2020, Barry picked her up from Anytime Fitness in Poncha Springs. They traveled to a job site, 6962 County Road, 105 Salida. They arrived at around 8 a.m., completed a rock beach project, and left. At around 11 a.m., Barry took her back to her vehicle at Anytime Fitness, paid her in cash for the job, and left. Morgan stated that Barry mentioned he was going to go hiking or biking. Barry was supposed to pick up Morgan around 5:30 p.m. on Sunday, May 10th, 2020, to drive to a hotel in Broomfield, Colorado. Cassidy Cordova was supposed to drive up separately and meet them on Monday, May 11th, 2020. Morgan stated that around 4 a.m. on May 10th, 2020, she was confident she heard Barry's Ford F-350 drive eastbound past her house on Highway 50. Morgan stated she did not see the truck, but that his truck has a very distinctive exhaust. At about 11:18 a.m. Monday, May 10th, 2020, Barry called Morgan and explained she needed to bring an additional person because of the amount of work needed to repair the wall. She agreed she would bring another contractor, Jeff Puckett. Barry never provided an explanation why he left early or why he did not pick her up. Morgan stated that she later picked up Jeff and drove towards Broomfield. At about 6:09 p.m., Barry called and said he had a family emergency and had to return to Salida. Barry had left tools at the hotel and said he would call her the next day. On May 11th, 2020, at about 7 a.m., Barry called Morgan and said that Suzanne was missing, and he thought a mountain lion may have attacked her. Morgan explained that Barry was initially crying, but then abruptly shifted to the specifics about the Broomfield job. Morgan adamantly denied there was ever any type of sexual relationship between her and Barry. On May 14th, 2020, investigator Richard Wren interviewed Jeff Puckett. Puckett was one of the workers who was supposed to meet Barry Morphew in Broomfield on May 10th, 2020, to complete a landscape job. Puckett stated he was contacted by Morgan on Sunday, May 10th, to see if he wanted to go to Denver to work on a job for Barry. After being asked by Morgan, Puckett contacted Barry directly. Puckett had no knowledge of the job until he was contacted by Morgan. On Monday, Puckett and Morgan met up with Cassidy Cordova, who was helping them with the job. Let's see. So moving on. The Cassidy Cordova interview. On May 14th, 2020, investigator Richard Wren interviewed Cassidy Cordova. Cordova advised he had contact with Barry Morphew early on the week of May 4th, and Barry mentioned that he may need Cordova to help with a job in Denver next week. Barry said that he would get back with Cordova later if he was for sure needed. On May 10th, Cordova had not heard from Barry, so he called him at about 1:45 p.m. to ask about the job. Barry asked Cordova to help with the job since he, Cordova, was already in Colorado Springs. Cordova met the rest of the crew in Denver on Monday morning. Cordova advised he has known Barry for about 2 years because they worked together at DSI. Cordova advised that Cody Cox had an issue with Barry over Barry firing him. Cox had been working for Morphew also. The Cody Cox interview. On May 14th, 2020, investigator Richard Wren interviewed Cody Cox. Okay, so interviewed Cody, and then basically Cox worked with Barry and for Barry's landscape business. Cox and Cordova did a landscape job in Broomfield between August 2019 and December 2019. The general contractor did not like the job, and it had to be repaired several times. After the last attempt to fix the wall, Cox refused to go back to Denver to fix the wall. Barry fired Cox. At the same time, Cox was given the ultimatum to leave DSI or be fired because of a hot urinalysis test. Cox left DSI. Cox advised that all this happened around the end of December 2019. Cox was asked about the information that he wanted to, quote unquote, kick Barry's butt. Cox advised that rumor was started by Jeff Puckett. Cox said that he was not happy about getting fired, but was not going around saying he wanted to fight Barry. Cox advised he had met Suzanne and talked about how she had brought cookies to his kids. He described Suzanne as a very nice lady. He denied having done anything to Suzanne and denied knowing what happened to Suzanne. Cox advised that Barry never talked bad about Barry's relationship with Suzanne. During a subsequent interview on May 22nd, 2020, Cox stated he does not recall ever telling Puckett he wanted to beat up Barry. Second Sheila Oliver interview. On May 14th, 2020, Sheila Oliver was interviewed by FBI agent William Rowell. Sheila said that she first met Suzanne when they were roommates and students together at Purdue University, West Lafayette, Indiana, about 1990. She married Barry in August 1994. Both families have children in the same age ranges and have raised their kids closely. About 2 years ago, the Morphew's daughter Blank went to college in Colorado, Western State College in Gunnison. The Morphews then moved to Colorado in 2018. They didn't have their home sold in Indiana before they left. The move seemed to be in a rush. Barry was domineering in the marriage with Suzanne. He would tell her she had to change in order for them to get along. Money was a big issue between them. Barry was very controlling with money. He insisted Suzanne use cash, but he would charge hunting equipment on his credit card. He invested in the silver market, and then it bottomed out. Suzanne did not stand up for herself until recently. The marriage had become very rocky by 2018. There was hope, a move to Colorado. Making a new start would help things. Okay, pardon me. So that's a little weird. Basically, there was hope by moving to Colorado that making a new start would help things. There was never a definite reason for Blank going to college in Colorado and the family moving there. Suzanne thought it would be nice for them to live near Blank, though. Suzanne came back to visit Sheila twice from Colorado. Once was Thanksgiving 2018, while the Morphews were still trying to sell their house in Indiana. While Suzanne was at the Olivers' house, she had stepped away from her cell phone to use the restroom, and Barry tried calling her several times within a few minutes. Then tried calling Sheila, then tried calling Darren. He was persistent and obsessive about knowing where she was, at least when she was with Sheila. The other time was June-July of 2019, when Suzanne returned to Indiana to visit Sheila and then went to Michigan to visit her dad. Barry called Sheila saying he couldn't get in touch with Suzanne. Suzanne told Sheila this was odd because Barry never bothered to call Suzanne at any other times. He was just very persistent in checking up on Suzanne when she was with Sheila. And the note on that statement is, this June 2019 visit to Michigan was consistent with Suzanne meeting Jeff Libler and Barry suspecting she was having an affair, thus his calls to Sheila. Okay. Get back to my spot. The Olivers' daughter, Hannah, was married on Sunday, May 10th, 2020. Hannah was like a daughter to Suzanne. The wedding was originally going to include many people, and Suzanne was going to attend. But due to COVID-19 restrictions, it was limited to immediate family and was live streamed online. Suzanne was going to watch it. She would have not have missed it for the world. On Saturday, May 9th, 2020, Sheila sent 2 snaps to Suzanne in the morning, which were opened. Later in the day, evening, Sheila sent 3 more snaps to Suzanne, which were never opened, received, as reflected on Sheila's cell phone. Sheila stated there is a 0% chance that Suzanne would run off and not at least tell one of her daughters or Sheila. If she had left Barry, she would have contacted one of her daughters or Sheila to let them know what was going on. Suzanne would not commit suicide. Her religious beliefs would not allow her to do this. Sheila said Suzanne suspected Barry had an extramarital affair based on Barry's behavior, which included him turning his phone off at times, not being where he said he would be, always secretive and not honest with Suzanne. He had to travel back to Hamilton County, Indiana for some type of legal proceeding at least once, but maybe more. Suzanne had given up asking him why because he wouldn't tell her. As Suzanne's suspicions were aroused over the last few years, she wanted to find out what her husband was up to. She wanted to buy a spy pen to find out what he was doing, but was afraid of Barry's reaction if he found out. Suzanne asked Sheila to buy the pen for her on the internet. Sheila did this and then gave the pen to Suzanne while they were on vacation together in Florida a few months ago, around February 2020. The George Davis interview. On May 15, 2020, CBI agents Graham and Cahill interviewed George Davis, who stated he has known Barry for approximately a year and a half. George stated he has not noticed any recent changes in Barry's behavior. George explained that he and Barry work out together usually 5 days a week. Once the COVID-19 restrictions closed the gym, they began working out at George's residence. George explained Barry typically comes over to work out somewhere between 1,700 to 1,900 hours. George stated he and Barry hunt together and work at the same fire station, number 5. George stated he last physically saw Barry either Thursday or Friday when they worked out at his house. George explained since he works 1 week on, 1 off, he believed they may have worked out earlier around 4 p.m. George stated Barry has never confided in him about any type of marital problems. George stated Barry loves his children and his relationship with Suzanne seems normal. George explained he and his wife, Lindsay Davis, had gone on several dates with Barry and Suzanne. George stated on Sunday, May 10th, 2020, he was at his residence when he received a phone call from CCFDD Lieutenant Tim Nelson, who informed him a bike was located over an embankment by Barry's. Over the embankment by Barry's house. George stated he turned on his fire radio and called Barry. Barry stated he was just outside Buena Vista on his way back. George believed he called Barry between 5:30 and 6 p.m. George stated he responded to the area where Suzanne's bike was found. When he arrived, he noted the bike had been moved onto the road near a sheriff's vehicle. While still at the scene of the bike, George stated Barry arrived in his black Ford F-350. Barry was wearing jeans and a possible red-orange flannel shirt. George had conversations with CBI and the FBI about his observations and conclusions that an abduction had taken place with a staged scene. The Morgan Gentile interview, May 15th. On May 15th, 2020, CBI agents Cahill and Kobach contacted Morgan at her residence in Salida. Morgan spoke about conversations that George Davis had with her in which George might be attempting to influence her future testimony. Morgan stated that she had recalled some additional detail about the hotel in Broomfield. Morgan explained that after she and Jeff Puckett checked in, they went to their rooms. Jeff went to room 225, the one originally rented and used by Barry, and she went to room 228. Good morning, cunning linguist. Thanks for joining. Morgan explained that Jeff could not figure out how to open the hotel room door, so she opened it. Morgan explained that when she opened the door, she immediately smelled the strong odor of chlorine. Morgan stated this was not the ordinary house cleaning odor. It was more consistent with what you'd smell with a pool. Thank you, Spooky Trash. You're welcome. Thanks for joining. Morgan stated she observed several damp and used towels on the floor. Later, Morgan stated that Jeff found an insurance document under the pillow. The document was thrown in the trash. She could not recall what was on the document. When questioned about the job sites on Saturday, May 9th, 2020, Morgan stated she recalled an odd comment made by Barry. Morgan explained after they completed the beach at the River House, 6962 CR 105 Salida, she rode with Barry to the next site. Morgan stated she commented pigs could eat an entire human body in 2 hours. Barry commented that he would be able to bury a body and it would never be found. That seems like those are odd conversations to be having. That's not anything I would ever be talking about with anybody. So strange. We spoke with Morgan about Barry's financial activities. Morgan stated Barry contacted his stock trader, Dan, heard over the phone with an English-type accent. Morgan stated he spoke to Dan on a daily basis. So the Morgan timeline to CCSO on July 29th. On July 29th, 2020, Morgan Gentile provided a handwritten timeline to CCSO Sheriff John Speasy. The following lines were noted by S.A. Grishing for the affidavit. For Sunday, May 10th, Morgan wrote that she heard Barry's truck at 5 a.m. She added, 11:15, Barry called. He was out of breath, panting but fatigue, kind alike hungover, but he doesn't drink. Honestly, when I hung up, I thought to myself, he sounded like he had the worst night of his life. Morgan provided more details about her trip to the Broomfield Hotel. To include her route on May 10th, she wrote, arrived at hotel 10 to 10:30, grabbed Barry's tools, went to check in. Morgan wrote that she and Puckett checked into rooms 228 and 225. When Morgan walked in 225, the smell of chlorine was so strong it made my eyes water. I noticed wet towels on the ground in the bathroom, and Barry made the bed. For Monday, May 11th, Morgan wrote that they drove to the job site from the hotel. She indicated it looked like Barry had removed top caps. That was it. We also did not have the tools we need, like a packer or gravel. Interview of John Smits. On May 16, 2020, CBI agents Gonzalez contacted John Smit regarding a message he had left on the Suzanne Morphew tip line. Schmidt stated that he first met Barry in and about December of 2017 when they were working on the same construction project in Indianapolis. He said that he, Schmitz, is a contractor and Barry was the landscaper assigned to the Main Street Shops project. Schmidt stated that at some point during an altercation with Barry body bumped him, which prompted Schmitz to grab him in a headlock and pin him against a wall. He said that what he recalls was the most during the altercation was the evil in Barry's eyes. Schmitz said that when he heard about Suzanne, he just had a feeling that it was not good knowing what he does about Barry. Smith stated that in May of 2018, he and Barry were charged with disorderly conduct by the Boone County Sheriff's Office for the incident that occurred in December of 2017. He said that the case had been continued until February of 2019 when all charges were dropped. The Brad Oswald interview. On May 17, 2020, CBI Agent Kobach interviewed Brad Oswald, an Indiana resident and deputy sheriff in Hamilton County. Oswald stated that he has known Barry 20 years and they are good friends. Oswald came to Barry's house in 2019 to hunt in a preserve south of Salida. Oswald knew that Barry got into a fight with another guy in Indiana over the party not wanting to move scaffolding on a construction site. Oswald described Barry as a hard-headed and strong-willed. He added that he was afraid to say what I think, but I think Barry was so pissed off he accidentally killed her. Oswald guessed that Barry and Suzanne were fighting, or she confronted him, and that caused him to lose his temper. Oswald said that Barry had all night to plan how to get rid of her. Barry was big-time controlling over Suzanne. Oswald said that Barry is very secretive, and he would not talk to anyone if he did do something. Barry is an excellent skid loader operator and do incredible things with a skid loader. Oswald said that Barry could have easily buried Suzanne and that Barry is smart enough to turn off his phone or leave it at home. Oswald stated that Barry is never wrong. He added that Barry is very prideful and would never confess to killing Suzanne. Oswald believes that Barry would have taken her away from the house if he killed her because she would be too easy to find on the property. Kurt Ziegler interview. On May 17, 2020, CBI agent Kobach interviewed Kurt Ziegler, who explained that he has known Barry since Kurt was 8 or 9 years old. Kurt stayed with Barry and Suzanne approximately 2 years ago in Colorado. During that stay, Suzanne told Kurt that Barry was cheating on her with a girl from Indiana. Kurt hunted with Barry near Buena Vista that year in 2018. On May 11, 2020, Marcy, Barry's sister, called Kurt and told him that Suzanne was missing. that Suzanne was riding her bike and a mountain lion got her. The next day, Kurt was in Colorado talking to Barry. Kurt stated that Suzanne is not suicidal. She would not do that to the girls or Barry. During the interview, Kurt made assertions that he did not think Barry was capable of killing Suzanne. After speaking with Kurt on audio recording, Agent Kobach walked out the parking lot with him. Kurt turned and said, "I think he killed her." Kurt further stated Barry's timeline does not make sense. The bike was thrown down the embankment. The stuff found along the road was placed, and it was like thrown out when Barry was driving back. Curtis also said if anyone found out Barry's infidelity, they would all turn on him. Barry also burnt many bridges in Indiana, referring to business deals. The Gene Moorman interview. May 18th, 2020. Gene Moorman, Suzanne's father, was interviewed in Mears, Michigan by FBI agent Lynn Novak. Moorman said that the first time he heard from Barry following Suzanne's disappearance was on Saturday, May 16th, 2020. Barry called and sounded distraught, saying he felt so badly and the authorities were trying to pin Suzanne's death on him. Barry said he was interrogated for 5 hours. Moorman said that he did not find it odd, however, that Barry waited almost a week after Suzanne's disappearance because Barry was very emotional and going through a lot. Moorman found it odd, though, that neither of his granddaughters or Barry were home on Mother's Day. Barry seldom worked on a Sunday, and it was unusual that he would choose to work on the Sunday of Mother's Day. Suzanne never told Moorman that she and Barry were having marital problems. Moorman believed Suzanne would have confided in her older sister, Melinda, who lived in Tennessee. Barry and Suzanne went through stressful times when they had a hard time selling their home in Indiana and struggled to pay for their mortgages in Indiana and Colorado. A little over a year ago, Moorman loaned Barry and Suzanne $100,000. Barry paid Moorman back with a personal check on a quarterly basis and paid off the loan early, approximately 3 months ago. The last time Moorman saw Suzanne was approximately 2 years ago. She met him in Florida for a vacation. Suzanne was by herself and was supposed to stay with Moorman for 7 days, but abruptly left after 3 days to meet her husband on the West Coast. He was upset of her leaving early, however, did not tell her how he felt. And sadly, Gene Moorman passed away on November 10th, 2020. Andrew Moorman. On May 18th, 2020, CBI agent Kobach interviewed Andrew Moorman, brother of Suzanne. Andrew stated that in Indiana a few years ago, Suzanne found a female's bracelet in Barry's truck and confronted him about having an affair. Barry's sister, Marcy, ended up claiming the bracelet belonged to her. Barry has exceptional hunting skills. Barry told Andrew that his surveillance system at his home has been down for months. Andrew made the statement, "Don't get between Barry and his money." Following Suzanne's disappearance, Barry told Andrew that Suzanne crashed her bike or was forced off the road. Barry also said he thought a mountain lion dragged her off. Barry used the Montana lion idea for 2 to 3 days before the theory changed to someone taking Suzanne. Then Barry could not get past the idea that Suzanne was being molested. Andrew said that Barry is a very good skid loader operator, and he could have placed her in a tarp and put her anywhere on his way to Denver. Barry knows how to cover scent by using skunk spray and is an exceptional hunter. Andrew did not know Suzanne to have ever been an early riser. Aaron Blondo. On May 20th, 2020, your affiant interviewed Aaron Blondo. Blondo is the IT person for the Grace Church in Salida, Colorado. On Sunday morning, May 10th, 2020, the church broadcasted the service live on YouTube. Blondo is responsible for getting broadcast set up on the church end and broadcasting it to YouTube. Blondo advised he could not see who logged into the broadcast. Tim Clow. On July 27th, 2020, S.A. Gershing interviewed Tim Clow at his place of business, 58 Jones Avenue, Salida, Colorado. Clow indicated that Dan Thomas, a developer friend of his, told him in September 2019 that if Clow was looking to sell his backhoe attachment for a skid steer, Barry Morphew might buy it. Thomas gave Clow the cell phone number for Barry, and Clow traded texts with Barry around September and October 2019. Barry and Clow told Clow he was interested in buying the backhoe attachment for the asking price of $5,000, but Barry never met Clow to complete the deal. On Saturday, May 9th, 2020, Barry again reached out to Clow and said he was interested in buying the backhoe. Clow traded texts and calls with Barry that day, and Barry asked via text at 1:46 p.m., "Are you around to look at the backhoe?" Clow reported at 1:49 p.m., "No, but you can drive by and have a look." 58 Jones Avenue. Clow does not know if Barry drove by the lot because the surveillance cameras were not functional. Barry sent Clow a text at 1:50 p.m. "Okay, will do. I'll call to discuss." But Barry never called Clow and did not further pursue him. Clow only found out that Barry was the husband of Suzanne Morphew after the case gained publicity. Clow explained that the backhoe attachment could easily be used to dig a deep hole or trench in a very short amount of time. And the note on that is, in March and April of 2021, FBI agents asked Barry why he needed a backhoe that particular time and day. FBI agents learned that before Barry left Indiana in 2018, he used a backhoe to dig a large hole in his front yard, fill it with items to include furniture, and cover it over, planting alfalfa on top. Barry also dug holes to hide large sums of money in Indiana per his associates and own admissions. You're going to dig a hole and put furniture in it? Okay, that's a new one to me. Never heard of anybody digging a hole to put furniture inside. Anybody else? Any thoughts on that? Timothy Agnew, aka CBD Tim. As cited previously, Barry told CBI on June 17th and June 25th that Tim from Westcliff might be responsible for Suzanne's disappearance. Investigators identified Tim as Timothy Agnew, home address 802 CR 305 Westcliff, Colorado. Your affiant and S.A. Gershing contacted Agnew on July 28, 2020, in the presence of his wife, Megan Agnew. The Agnews were not advised that the purpose of the interview was centered around the allegations made by Barry that Timothy was a drug dealer who should be considered a suspect in the disappearance and death of Suzanne. Timothy advised that he met Suzanne at the farmer's market in Salida 2018, and Suzanne told him about her battle with cancer. She said that she had lymphoma in her 20s. The cancer was coming back. She was looking for treatment that was non-traditional to buy some time because she was feeling run down. The Agnews provided 4 purchase orders from Barry and Suzanne from October 2018 through April 2020 for hemp oil. Timothy only spoke to Barry once, when Barry called him in the summer of 2019 and said Suzanne's lymphoma was back and she needed more oil. Suzanne interacted with Timothy about 5 or 6 times and never gave any indication that she was having to be secretive about taking the oil around Barry or that Barry disapproved of her taking the oil. Carrie Waddell. The next interview. On January 11th, 2021, S.A. Harris and S.A. Gershing interviewed Carrie Waddell in Salida, Colorado. Waddell met Suzanne at the Exerflex gym in Salida in the fall of 2018 as they worked out during the same time in the afternoons. Suzanne's workouts were very similar to Waddell's, and Waddell asked her if she was preparing for a competition. Waddell began giving massages to Suzanne in March 2019 and continued through September 2019. During the treatment, Suzanne told Waddell that throughout her marriage, including Indiana, she raised her girls by herself. She and Barry moved to Colorado to slow down, but Barry started working for DSI and was trying to start his own business. Waddell estimated that Suzanne and Barry traveled to Denver once every week or two in 2019. Waddell told agents that she felt guilty for not accepting Suzanne's invitation in November 2019 to spend more time together. Suzanne approached Waddell in the gym and asked, "Carrie, can we start going out?" She told Waddell that she needed to start doing things with a friend. Waddell believes that Suzanne was going to speak with her about Barry's failed attempt a few days earlier to ask Waddell to start giving him massages. Waddell had been doing massages for men and women for about 17 years. She's worked on numerous wealthy white men who seem like they have a full life but are missing something. These men, like Barry, are looking to fill a void through church, money, cars, sexual relationships, or other means, and cannot seem to find what they're looking for. Waddell met Barry in September 2019 during her morning workouts at the gym. She did not know that Barry was married to Suzanne until she saw him sign in on the register one morning. When she saw his name, everything that Suzanne told Waddell about the problems with her husband clicked in Waddell's mind. Barry was alone during his morning workouts. He watched Waddell in the gym to the point of making her uncomfortable. She perceived him as a predator with a huge ego. Barry's truck caught her attention because of its size, noise, and firefighter plates. Barry was not always working as hard as Suzanne stated, but because he was in the gym about 4 times a week. Once Waddell was working out in the afternoon, she saw Barry walk up to the second floor of the gym. He looked all around the gym until he saw Waddell. After a while, she walked up to the second floor and he said, "Hi, I'm Barry Morphew. Have a good workout." Waddell thought her Dead Men Tell No Tales t-shirt might have attracted him. She told Barry, "Your wife is a wonderful person." While Waddell and a friend, Connie, who is an active member of Grace Church, were eating in the corner patio of the Boathouse restaurant in November 2019, Barry and blank Morphew sat down a few tables over. He glanced over at Waddell multiple times, making her uncomfortable. Barry approached her, stretched his back, and said words to the effect of, "I'm so happy to see you out tonight. My back is hurting. I'd like to schedule an appointment." Waddell did not want to give Barry her phone number or give him a massage, so she told him that she did not have her phone with her and he should schedule through his wife. Waddell told agents that she wondered how many other women Barry pursued who did not steer him to talk with his wife. Waddell felt Suzanne's request to talk a few days later occurred because Barry has a huge ego, felt rejected by Waddell, and likely bashed her to Suzanne. From the first time Waddell met Barry, she said, it felt like he was putting his tentacles out. All right. The Laura and Andrew Richardson interview. On December 1st, 2020, S.A. Gershing and S.A. Harris interviewed Laura and Andrew Richardson at their Salida residence. Laura met Suzanne through church in 2018 and heard Suzanne was battling cancer. She approached Suzanne and offered to be her friend, since Suzanne was new to Colorado, away from her family and friends. Laura went to at least 3 cancer treatments with Suzanne. As Laura and Suzanne got to know each other, Suzanne shared that Barry chose to go to work over going with her to cancer treatments. As Suzanne began to feel better, she was more fiery, and she traveled out of state without Barry to see her father. When the Richardsons went to the Morphew house for the second dinner, Barry announced that blank was a virgin, and there are no other virgins at Western State. The statement was odd to Andrew and Laura for multiple reasons and seemed more like a declaration than conversation. On May 1st, 2020, Laura and Susie celebrated Suzanne's birthday at Laura's house. Suzanne was very healthy and positive as she showed them her mountain bike and talked about blank receiving an award at school. She spoke about doing the financial books for Barry and how that would serve as a bridge between them. Suzanne also started training online to become certified as an athletic trainer. She was coming out of cancer treatment and felt like she had a second chance at life. Andrew said that he and Laura responded to the scene where Suzanne's bike was recovered on May 10th after Blank called Laura at about 9 p.m. Andrew and Laura stood with Barry on the road for 4 hours while law enforcement, along with search and rescue, searched for Suzanne. Andrew told agents that Barry was silent for most of their time on the road, regardless of the suggestions Andrew made. Andrew told Barry they should explore the tracks around her bike or go down to the area where Suzanne's bike was recovered to see if they could see anything. Andrew wanted to search, look around, and ask questions to figure out what happened to Suzanne, but Barry was not interested. Barry looked at Andrew and said, "You're a really good man." Andrew did not know why Barry said that in context of their situation. Andrew described Barry's expression as stone-faced throughout the evening. Andrew said the bike positioning in relation to the road made no sense for an accident to have occurred because the rider would have needed to make a 90-degree turn from the road to head downhill. Barry told Andrew he made the trip from Denver to Salida in an hour and 15 minutes, or some similar ridiculous amount of time once he thought Suzanne was missing. Andrew did not understand why Barry waited that long until that night to come back if he thought Suzanne was on a bike ride that morning. Andrew helped with the searches for Suzanne, which Andrew described as disorganized. Barry and his friend George searched by themselves. Barry was gone all day, every day, and left his girls at the house. Barry tracked a mountain lion for an entire day across Highway 50, but he did not find anything. On the third or fourth night after Suzanne went missing, and Barry had been complaining about law enforcement's focus being solely on him, Andrew went to speak with a friend of his who lives nearby and is a defense attorney. The attorney listened to Andrew, and he gave Andrew his business card to give to Barry. He told Andrew that Barry needed to take the polygraph test so law enforcement could focus somewhere else. Andrew took the card and gave it to Barry, explaining the conversation with the attorney. Barry was very excited to get the card and grateful for Andrew's referral. However, when Andrew told Barry the attorney recommended that he take the polygraph, Barry looked at Andrew and said, "I don't think I'd pass a polygraph." Andrew waited in an uncomfortable silence for a few moments to allow Barry to qualify his statement. Andrew told agents that he got chills from Barry's response and thought Barry's reaction was very strange. When Barry said nothing else, Andrew awkwardly told him he had to go, and he left. Andrew waited until the present date to tell law enforcement about the encounter with Barry because he did not know if it meant anything to the investigation. Barry has since told Andrew that he spoke with the attorney a few times and the attorney has been helpful. On December 8th, 2020, Laura said that Barry called her on December 4th, 2020 at 10:30 a.m. and they spoke for 10 minutes. Barry said his girls were angry with Sheila, having a hard time with her, and do not want to talk to her. Barry told Laura he does not know why Sheila is doing this. He said words to the effect of, "Suzanne's not dead, she's coming back." Barry thus did not know why Sheila felt she needed to remember Suzanne or grieve. Laura was shocked by these words, but did not ask Barry why he thought Suzanne is alive. The interview with Matt Craig. John Matthew or Matt Craig of Noblesville, Indiana, was interviewed by S.A. Gershing and S.A. Harris. Matt explained that Barry told BLM Landscaping Services, LLC, and Sunset Tree Farms to Matt, his brother, Dan Craig, and Hank King. He had sold those businesses. Matt's father signed as guarantor for the purchase of the business, which occurred January 12, 2018, when they paid Barry $189,000. Barry told Matt that he was making $200,000 to $300,000 per year, and the client list on his phone alone was worth the investment. After paying the initial $189,000, Matt and the others agreed to pay Barry $50,000 per year over the next 4 years, due on August 1st of each year. They paid $50,000 to Barry in August of 2019 and $50,000 in August of 2020. Matt told agents Barry's business was possibly worth $20,000 instead of the $389,000 they paid. Barry used his relationships through the church and his supposed good reputation to fool Matt and his family into buying a worthless business. Matt's father refused to allow Matt and the others to hire an attorney to sue Barry because he did not believe in lawsuits. His father felt it was his fault for agreeing to be a guarantor, and they planned to pay off the debt. Barry sold his BLM business once before to Seth Pickett and Kyle Cambray. Though he called the business BLM Landscaping LLC, he left out services from the business name. Matt found out after he bought the business from Barry that Pickett and Cambray also figured out BLM was worthless, and they refused to pay him the rest of the money they supposedly owed Barry in 2015 or 16. Matt said he would have stopped paying also, except his father was the guarantor. Interview of Ted Turner. On October 27, 2020, S.A. Gershing and S.A. Harris interviewed Ted Turner in Noblesville, Indiana. Turner explained he and Barry raised deer for hunting purposes, selling the deer for $5,000 to $7,000 so Hunter could release the deer and hunt for them for their horns. He added the deer are normally released in acres that are fenced, and thus the chance to shoot the deer is guaranteed. Sometimes the people who bought the deer would act as guides and charge the wealthy people who are willing to pay $15,000 to $20,000 to hunt a deer and get a guaranteed set of horns. When agents asked Turner how those who purchased the deer transported them off his property, he stated they bought a trailer, usually a horse trailer. The purchaser most often used a tranquilizer dart on the deer because herding them into the trailer is difficult. Purchasers like Barry had their own tranquilizer darts and guns for such purposes. When their interview was concluding, Turner remarked, "Barry would slit my throat if he knew Turner was talking to the FBI." Turner refused to elaborate why he made such a statement, but said all the deer farmers talked to each other and they knew what Barry was doing. The interview of George Wimmer. On February 16, 2020, S.A. Harris and S.A. Gershing interviewed George Wimmer by phone. Wimmer explained that he first met Barry in 1998 or 1999 when he went to work for Barry at Salisbury Brothers. Barry was the foreman and Wimmer was the manager. Following those years, Wimmer went to work for a friend for a year and a half. He then came back around 2004 and Barry was starting his own business. Wimmer did not have much further contact with Barry. Wimmer lost contact with Barry and found out years later that he was selling his business to a young man named Kyle and another guy. Wimmer told Kyle to be careful because he'd seen a lot of Barry's deals go south. Kyle and his friend became defensive. Wimmer told them, "You're dealing with the devil." Following this conversation, Barry blew up Wimmer's phone. Wimmer eventually answered and Barry vented at him for warning the boys. Wimmer described Barry as shady, not on the straight and narrow, doing a lot of deals under the table, working in cash, and hiring a lot of illegals. Barry told people that his dad dying affected him so badly that he could not run his own business. Barry was not planting trees at the proper depth, either too shallow or too deep. He knew that he had to adjust the trees or they would die, but he was too focused on making money and moving on to the next job. Barry planted rows of trees incorrectly and hurriedly, and they died. When Wimmer learned Suzanne was missing, he Googled Barry and read all about what was going on with her disappearance. Wimmer was intrigued by it and saw the Tyson Draper video. After Wimmer watched it, he concluded Barry is guilty for sure. Wimmer said that Barry thinks he is a really good liar, and he is not. Barry is the kind of person that will just stand there and tell you something and know damn well it's not true. Wimmer would often just listen and not contradict because he did not want the conflict with Barry. Wimmer sent Barry a series of texts on September 23, 2020, accusing Barry of killing Suzanne and telling Barry he would rot in hell. The interview of Holly Wilson. From October 2020 through December 2020, Holly Wilson recorded her phone and in-person conversations with Barry. providing those recordings to S.A. Grishing. That's interesting. She was recording the conversations. Holly and her husband, Jeff Wilson, knew Barry and Suzanne well through their church in Indiana. During these recordings, Barry told Holly words to the effect, "You are Suzanne to me." He held her hand while in the car, gave her a kiss goodnight, and told her Suzanne would approve of whatever would happen in their relationship, and twice touched Holly's breasts, pretending like the touches were accidents when her husband's head was turned away or not looking. Barry told Holly that he had an ex-FBI guy working for him, and sometimes saying that he had a PI, private investigator, working for him who charged him over $50,000. And a note there, Barry would not specify if these people were the same. Once Barry told Holly and Jeff that he may have found where someone was holding Suzanne and asked Jeff to come to Colorado to cut the guy's balls off. The following is a brief summary of pertinent quotes from the recordings of Barry and Holly. Oh boy. Thanks for joining today for the review of the Barry Morphew arrest affidavit. If you guys would hit the like and subscribe button, we'd greatly appreciate it. All right, to the notes. Specific pertinent quotes from the recordings of Barry and Holly. November 5th, 2020, when Barry was asked if he had thoughts of what happened to Suzanne, he responded that he had two ideas. Barry stated, 1, somebody took her right there where the bike was. Just they threw her in the car, or she got in willingly, whatever, and ran off. Barry added, or somebody chased her and she's in the river, and she's still in the river now, today, somewhere in a log jam. Barry said he did not see anything else, adding the FBI was telling him that she left on her own. They were trying to tell me that she left. Barry said she did not leave. He knew she would not do that. Holly asked Barry if this guy was able to go through the list of people whom Suzanne was Facebook requesting. He replied that he had not spoken to him about it. Holly wondered out loud if someone else hacked into Suzanne's Facebook. Holly said it was unlike Suzanne to send out a lot of requests, asserting, if I had to bet, I'd say it wasn't her. Barry said, yeah, she wasn't like that. Barry was asked about the last thing he said to Suzanne. He replied, I don't even know. It was just a normal night. We just ate dinner together and just had a quiet evening, like unintelligible. We do. Holly's spouse asked Barry what someone would do with Suzanne if that person took her. Barry responded that person would keep her in a basement. Holly challenged Barry that someone would hold on to her for 6 months. Barry said, and if that's the case, then unintelligible, she's underwater, he added, because there's no evidence of anything else that surfaced. December 5th, 2020. Holly talked to Barry on FaceTime, and he said, I've been talking to the detectives and the FBI guy regularly now. He added, they seem to be on my side, finally, and helping me kind of feel better about things because of what they're telling me. Barry thinks they have Suzanne's phone, he said. They found it by the bike, or they found it on the search, or they found it in the house. I don't know. They won't tell me. They won't even tell me they have it, but I'm pretty sure they have her phone. Barry said, my guys know I had nothing to do with it. He's already said he's proven that with his investigation. Holly asked what the private investigator is waiting for, then in talking to the detectives. Barry replied, I think because they've been on different pages for so long, and he told me that, and everybody has told me this, that 80% of the time it's the spouse. Barry asserted that the FBI told him they never give the house and the cars back, and yet they gave Barry his house and cars. Barry said he told them, I think I know why you did, because you found no evidence. Because there is no evidence, it doesn't exist. December 17th, 2020 in downtown Salida. Barry, I don't know if she was I don't know. Okay, pardon me. Let me go back. I don't know if she was what she was doing, putting in her body behind my back. But all I did was work or hunt. And she had idle time. Idle hands are the devil's tools. She had 21 years of doing absolutely nothing but being a mom. He later said that Suzanne was going to Al-Anon, helped her detach from Barry. Barry said, "Let's go. I can't hear it." He stood up immediately and walked out of the restaurant. Holly said that Barry could never describe what his last image of Suzanne was to her. Barry, well, I'll tell you right now, we had sex that night and she was naked when I went to sleep. So she obviously got up and put her pajamas on when I left. In the next morning, she was laying right there in bed. I didn't pull up the covers and look what she was wearing, if that's what you're asking me. Barry, and it upsets me that women have to have their little secrets behind their husband's back when I'm her best friend, and it pisses me off. It pisses me off that my wife went behind my back and said that shit about me. He continued, that's the problem with women. They get their little things going between each other and they have no respect. They have no respect for their husbands. Barry later said, well, she said I cheated on her. Holly confirmed Suzanne told her the same. Barry said, but I didn't. Barry later said, I mean, if I would have done one thing wrong, I would be in jail right now. Barry said, what you guys had in your little private conversations has nothing to do with the situation we're in, unless she left on her own. And if that's the case, then I'm sure she'll surface someday for her daughters. But I don't believe that's the case. I truly believe that her disappearance was out of anyone's hands but God's. And God allowed that to happen for some reason, and we might never know until we get to heaven. Holly said that if she had told Barry before Suzanne's disappearance that Suzanne was detaching from him, he would have reacted in the same defensive way. Barry said, no, I would have sat my wife down and had a heart-to-heart talk about it. He adds, he would not have been upset. All right. Moving on, I'm going to cover a little bit more here today and then continue and do another live another day. Thanks everybody for joining. If you could hit the like, subscribe button, it would be terrific. Appreciate it. So section 6, Barry's interviews with the FBI in 2021. This section includes summaries of audio and video recorded interviews by the FBI of Barry after he was informed of Suzanne's affair. January 27th, 2021. In this interview, Barry stated numerous times he had no idea of the affair, and he asked multiple times to know who her lover was. He initially guessed her lover lived in Arizona, where he was telling Suzanne he wanted to go on Friday, May 8th, and said that maybe Suzanne's disappearance was a form of God's judgment for the affair. S.A. Grishing and S.A. Harris met with Barry at his condo in Poncha Springs, Colorado, to inform him of the affair. Upon meeting Barry, as he was walking behind the house and telling him agents needed to speak with him privately, he said, okay, I'm working right now. Can I get your number? He eventually agreed to speak with agents. After being informed Suzanne had an affair, Barry asked who the person was and how long the affair had been going on. He then said, this is a complete surprise to me. I have had no idea of this and would never suspect her of doing this. He later said, because I've never seen it on her phone. How was she? S.A. Grishing asked if Barry remembered her handing him her phone in Mexico, that he was trying to see who she was talking to. Barry said, yeah, wasn't in her phone. Snapchat? Barry said, I can assure you I had no idea there was another man. Barry said, I had no idea they were communicating. And if you guys are trying to tell me that I found out about this and did something, that's completely wrong. S.A. Grishing said that Suzanne's and her lover's communications stopped Saturday afternoon. Barry said, well, I was with Suzanne. I came home to have lunch, went into town to get the blade on my Bobcat fixed. And I had the whole timeline on that. So if she was talking to this individual, it had to be when I came into Salida. S.A. Harris told Barry that Suzanne was communicating with the individual on some occasions while Barry was in the house. Barry asked, where is this guy from? Arizona? S.A. Gershing told Barry hundreds of communications existed between Suzanne and this person, especially on Saturday before Barry came back home, just before 3 o'clock. Barry asked, can you tell me how many months it's been going on? S.A. Gershing said Barry could probably answer that himself. Barry said, well, I can't answer that on the way she treated me because she didn't treat me like she wanted to leave me. S.A. Gershing told Barry about the recording pen and conversation when Barry asked Suzanne to tell him if she loved him, and she could not answer that she loved him. Barry was asked if he remembered that. Barry was shaking his head side to side to signal no as he replied, yeah, I remember. Barry began to cry audibly. Barry stated she's always been insecure because she didn't have a father. He left, was a drunk. When we were dating, insecure that I'm cheating, I'm having an affair. When we're married and I got a secretary, that I'm having an affair with her. You can go back through my whole entire life. I've never even touched, let alone talked or texted to another woman besides my wife. You'll never find that. And there's clearly here a picture of Barry on this particular page. Not sure what that is referencing at this point. Barry asked to guess who Suzanne's lover was and said, it's either David Huff or Kevin Stout. Am I right? Agents did not confirm, and Barry began to talk about Suzanne possibly being in the river. S.A. Gershing added, the river far from an accident or an abduction. Barry said, either one. I don't think it. The way I see it, it was an accident, and she ran from somebody to the river. He continued, if she got in the river and hit a rock with her head from that could have been a possibility, or they could have grabbed her at the river and took her up. Barry was asked if he found out something about Suzanne on Saturday, or if someone else was involved. Barry shook his head and said, there's nothing that I found out on Saturday about her having an affair. Nothing. S.A. Gershing asked if he found out on Friday or Saturday if she was having an affair. Barry said, I told you. I've already told you this. This is the first day I found out she had an affair. You researched the lady. She's an angel. She's a saint. This just blows my mind. And it's going to blow anybody's mind to find this out. He added, as soon as they find out, they're going to say, old hothead Barry found out and killed his wife. S.A. Gershing told Barry about the May 6th text wherein Suzanne said, I'm done. Let's just handle this civilly. Barry was working and his responses were that life was not worth living and going to meet my Savior, and life is a mere grain of sand compared to eternity. Barry said, yeah, I was just trying to hurt her. That's all I was doing. I would have never killed myself with my daughters. S.A. Gershing told Barry that investigators noted Suzanne did not tell Barry not to commit suicide. Barry said, I know. Well, it makes perfect sense now. Why? Back then, it didn't to me. I would want her to say, no, don't hurt yourself, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it didn't come. Barry said, I appreciate it, but I want you to know that I've been a Christian my whole entire life. I accepted the Lord. I love the Lord, and he knows why this happened, and I got to trust him. I have to trust that he did this for a reason. He added, I'm telling you, I had no idea of this until today, but looking at everything right now, things are making a little bit more sense to me from God's point of view, because I would never understand why God could take away my wife after I fought 2 battles with cancer with her and had 2 miracle babies that we shouldn't have had. We've had a wonderful life together. Barry continued, I can promise you that I knew none of this until today. Barry said, she never talked Saturday to me about leaving. I mean, did you find communication between her and I on Saturday about that? Because to me, Saturday was a good day. We had a good evening together. Saturday. Friday, we had an argument on the phone. Friday, I'm sure you've seen that. S.A. Gershing told Barry that for some reason, it seems he is placing Wednesday as Friday. Barry said, oh. S.A. Gershing reminded Barry that it was Wednesday when Suzanne said she was done. Barry said, okay, then that was Wednesday, not Friday. Friday, she would go through these times where we would fight like that, and then everything would be back to normal. And it was like nothing ever happened. And we'd go eat dinner. We'd go home. We'd have sex. Everything would be fine. S.A. Gershing told Barry that investigators have a fuller picture of his actions in Broomfield. Barry said, I told to Joe and Derek everything. And Joe's like, well, why are you going to 5 different trash cans and throwing all kinds of crap away? And I said, I've done that my whole entire life. My truck is a mess. I go throw things away here and there because I'm a tightwad and I don't want to pay for trash pickup or this or that. And I had time. That day, I was going to have more time, spend more time on the wall that day. But when I got to it and realized that my workers were going to come and I could just have them do this stuff, all I had was time on my hands. And the note to that is Barry's story that he had time on his hands after working on the wall contradicts his 5 trash runs on May 10th, 4 of which occurred before he went to the wall, then finished with his walk across the hotel parking lot. S.A. Gershing asked Barry about coming home on Saturday after errands and whether he remembered where Suzanne was when he got home. Barry said no. S.A. Gershing asked if she could have been out on the deck. Barry said, I don't remember, shaking his head side to side before answering. I do not recall where she was when I got home. I don't even remember going to town and doing that. S.A. Gershing told Barry that investigators have some images to show him. Barry said, of that she sent to this guy? S.A. Gershing confirmed and said that it might be the last time outside of Barry that she is seen by someone else alive. Barry said, I'm telling you right now, there was nothing out of the normal Saturday afternoon. Nothing. It was almost like that evening, nothing ever happened to us that week. She's like one person one day and another person the other day. And when she acts like that, I'm going to accept it and take it all in, because when she's distant and cold, I don't get any affection. And Saturday were no problems. None. And I don't understand that you're telling me she's communicating with this guy Saturday all day. I'm working till noon, come home, eat lunch with her, leave again and come home and then spend the evening with her, eat supper with her, have sex with her. I can assure you that Saturday night was a good night for us. And I can assure you that we made love that night. And there's no way that she would have done that to me if she's got this head on about another guy. S.A. Gershing said that Suzanne was disclosing things about their love life to the other guy. Barry said, well, I'm sure if she's not disclosing things, are having sex with her lover. Barry made air quotes with his hand while saying this, because that would upset him. She's so probably lying to him if she's saying we're not having sex, because we do, and we did. And I can assure you that night we did, 100%. In February, when I went to meet her in Florida, that's all it was sex. I mean, why would she do that to me if she's got this other guy that she's leaving me for? None of this makes sense. S.A. Gershing asked what does not make sense to Barry, adding that Barry said earlier things were making sense. Barry said, making sense in God's eyes. Why someone like me, someone like us? Well, now that you told me that she was having an affair, maybe I don't know. Maybe in God's eyes, this was his way of resolving something. I don't know. Barry stated, that's just why I said it's making sense to me with God's relationship. None of this. I'm telling you that there's nothing that I knew about. I know I had texts where I said, yeah, you're having an affair. You're having a boyfriend. I just did that to reciprocate what she was saying to me. S.A. Gershing said that Suzanne had notes on her phone that Barry accused her of having a boyfriend on May 6th, which is the same day she texted and said they should just do this civilly. S.A. Gershing asked Barry if he remembered that. Barry said, yeah, I remember that, but I didn't mean it. I was just saying it to get to her, to try to get to her. Barry talked about striking Suzanne once when he clipped her nose, but that was the only time he was physically abusive. S.A. Gershing said that in doing victimology work on Suzanne, investigators know that was not the only time she came at Barry. And that when Suzanne got frustrated, she would physically come at Barry. Barry said, she physically come at me several times through my life, and I took it. I'm a man, and I'm tough, and I can take it. Gotta lie about the scratch marks. And the reference to that is the scratches on Barry's left arm, May 13th, and CCSO photos. Barry later to the FBI, he did not recall how he got those, possibly from a tree. Okay, so gotta lie about the stretch marks in front of people when they're on my face. But that is the only time I ever touched her. I swear to God, I would never lay my hand on my wife, and that's just a crazy reflex. Harris asked Barry what he meant when he said this might be God's way of resolving things. Barry said, I tell you what, I've had a very hard time understanding why God did this, and he allowed it. If you know what you know that he allows bad things to happen. But all that we've been through, and all that we are, I couldn't understand it. And maybe we'll never understand till we get to heaven. But I would have known this in the beginning. I wouldn't have had to suffer for 9 months, not knowing why God did what he did. I'm not saying he did it to punish Suzanne because of her affair, but it makes more sense than what I knew before you guys came today. Barry said he wanted the news of the affair to be kept between agents and him, adding, and if we can keep all of this private between us for forever, that's all I'd ever want. January 28th, 2021. In this interview, Barry suggested that Suzanne ran away, discussed with agents her numerous trips to meet her lover, was told by agents that her lover thought the affair led to her homicide, and was told that pardon me, I read that totally wrong. So let's go back. Was told by agents that her lover thought the affair led to her homicide, and was told that no body cases could be proven. S.A. Harris and S.A. Gershing attempted to contact Barry Morphew in a construction area behind his temporary residence in Poncha Springs, Colorado. He spoke with agents by cell phone as he walked back and forth in front of the car, about 50 yards away from the vehicle, though agents said they needed to meet with him. Some of the conversation included, there's a picture there, but honestly, it's pretty blurry and I can't tell what it's referring to there. After thinking about what he learned yesterday, Barry suggested that Suzanne ran away. He said, can you answer that? Can you answer? Could she possibly have staged her bike and got in the car with somebody? I know that they did research on all the vehicles that were in the area. And I mean, did that clear that, possibility? Because she's not a dumb person. She's pretty stinking smart. And if she's thinking of just taking off, that's something that she would think about. I know her. Is this a possibility that she did that? S.A. Gershing told Barry that Suzanne sent her lover photos of herself serving as her last proof of life. Barry stated, well, let me tell you this and see if you can shed some light on this. I told you that in the past year, not the past year, but before that happened the past year, she had taken 7 trips by herself. Are you guys aware of those? S.A. Gershing confirmed and Barry replied, and one of them was to Louisiana. Are you aware of that one? S.A. Gershing confirmed and Barry replied, and was this individual that she was having an affair with at that location with her? S.A. Gershing asked Barry his thought and why he brought up Louisiana. Barry stated because it would just, when it happened, and she said she was going there, it didn't make any sense at all to me. She's like, I've always wanted to go, blah, blah, blah. and she was going through cancer. I was trying to make her happy, wanted to give her whatever she wanted. But when I was questioning her, and a side note to that, Barry admitted to questioning Suzanne about New Orleans, about the New Orleans trip to meet Liebler, further evidence he suspected the affair. S.A. Gershing confirmed, and Barry replied, and was this the individual that she was having an affair with at that location with her? S.A. Gershing asked Barry his thought and why he brought up Louisiana. Basically, but when I was questioning her, it didn't make sense to me why she wanted to go there. Barry asked, so I mean, then that means you guys have evidence that she's not? ? S.A. Gershing stated the FBI uses methods to determine if someone is alive or not. Barry asked, in your systems of investigations, these things, that, or physical evidence? S.A. Gershing concurred that there was little physical evidence, and he told Barry that recently some no body homicide cases have been used. The cases have used the FBI to prove someone is not alive. Barry responded, that's very interesting. Barry asked, was when you approached him, her lover, in parentheses, what was his demeanor? S.A. Gershing said he was shell-shocked and very contrite. S.A. Harris confirmed he was shell-shocked and contrite, adding that the man feels bad about it. Barry asked, feels bad? He feels bad about the affair? S.A. Gershing said, he wonders if the affair caused her to disappear and caused her homicide. S.A. Gershing added, Suzanne's lover said, maybe it was my fault. Maybe my relationship with Suzanne caused her to be killed. Barry was silent for a few seconds. Barry stated, see, now you guys are talking you're talking in a way that it really bothers me. S.A. Gershing asked, why? Barry said, because I have no evidence of my wife being dead, and you guys are absolutely certain of it. And that's very troubling to me. S.A. Gershing said that yesterday Barry said he thought she was under the Beaver Dam, and S.A. Gershing does not think that she would not have survived down there. I know, but I don't know that for a fact, I said. That's my thought. After 9 months of nothing from anybody, that would seem to make sense why there's no evidence, but I don't know that for a fact. Barry later said, let me ask you a question. You guys have bugged my phone. You've heard every conversation that I've had since May 10th. If there was one thing I said, I mean, you've done this for 25 years. I mean, there's no conversation that I've had with anybody that would make you guys look at me as a suspect. S.A. Gershing reminded Barry about the problems he cited earlier with CBI, adding that Barry's statements do not make sense with some of the evidence. S.A. Gershing told Barry the FBI was not after him, but just trying to find Suzanne. Barry stated, okay, well, I'm at my meeting. I got to get back to work. I'm going to go through about another page here, everybody, and then go ahead and schedule for the next live to continue and do part 4. So get down through the next page and then finish here this morning. February 28th, 2021. In this interview, Barry again asked for the lover's name, gave his code for knowing when people tell lies, discussed his activities on Saturday, May 9th, and significantly changed his earlier accounts to match evidence provided to him, putting a gun in his hand that afternoon when Suzanne was last known to be alive. At 1:14 p.m., S.A. Gershing greeted Barry, and Barry replied, hey, guys. S.A. Gershing told Barry that agents needed to share information with him. Barry stated, I got a meeting here in 10 minutes. In about 10 minutes, I was going to head for. But how long will it take? S.A. Gershing told Barry he has first right of refusal to the information and asked, is this about her and the guy? The guy? S.A. Gershing said agents would like to discuss the affair, the technology, and other aspects, and that Barry can clear this up. After a few minutes, Barry asked, "Are you able to give me the name of the gentleman?" S.A. Gershing said agents could share more information with Barry, then asked him what giving him the name of the man would do for him. Barry asked, "It's just peace of mind. If it was a friend or an acquaintance, just peace of mind. Wouldn't you want to know if it was your wife?" S.A. Gershing said he did not know how he would respond. Barry added, "Yeah, I mean, just to know that it wasn't a friend at least." S.A. Gershing confirmed the man was not Barry's friend. S.A. Gershing responded, "The evidence points towards her not being alive with the facts collected to date, not to determine who was guilty." Barry said, and I'm not guilty. There's no doubt that I'm not guilty. I'm just telling you that from what Joe and Derek did to me, I mean, Jim Comey's a liar, and I mean, do you think he's a liar? S.A. Gershing said he did not know if Comey was a liar, and Barry interrupted, "That's ridiculous. How could you not know he's a liar from what he said on the stand in front of the Senate?" S.A. Gershing asked what he said. Barry stated, "Well, I don't know exactly what he said word for word, but they asked him questions, and he said, 'I don't recall,' just like Hillary Clinton. All them freaking liberals don't recall anything when they don't want to tell the truth." Side note, Barry's equating of people saying, "I don't recall," means to him those people are telling lies, was told back to Barry on April 22nd, 2021. When Barry said, "I don't recall," to most of the critical questions about what happened to Suzanne on Saturday and Sunday, May 9th and 10th. S.A. Gershing told Barry that agents brought a notebook with evidence they would like to share with him. Barry replied, "Could you answer me some questions first? Was she with him in New Orleans?" S.A. Gershing said she was. Barry asked, "And was she with him in Florida?" S.A. Gershing said she was. After a pause, Barry asked, "In Indiana?" S.A. Gershing said she was. Barry asked, "And how long has this been going on?" S.A. Gershing said 2 years. Barry asked, 2 years? S.A. Gershing said it started shortly after they moved to Colorado. Barry asked, "And can you tell me where they connected the first time?" S.A. Harris said they connected through social media, and Barry repeated, "Social media." Barry said, "And the app you said they were using to communicate, there's no way I could have known about that. And what was that called again?" S.A. Gershing and agents did not want to give that to Barry. He replied, "I'm not going to go hunt." S.A. Gershing told Barry he was a hunter. Barry said, "I know, but I need this for he continued, "So who? I mean, just tell me who the guy is." "I don't know why you can't answer that. I'm not going to do anything to this guy. I can't afford to leave the only daughter, the only parent that my daughter has. If I go beat some guy up and go to jail, I can't afford that. Would I want to? Yeah. Would you? Yeah. Somebody screwing your wife for 2 years behind your back, that's just cold-blooded. I would never do that to a guy, but I'm not going to do that. But for just me, my peace of mind, I'd like to know who it is. And do you believe me when I say I had no idea this was even happening?" S.A. Gershing said some of the evidence items that agents brought to show Barry would help prove he did not know. Barry said, "Well, I didn't know. I'm telling you right now. I mean, she was the last person in the world I would suspect would do this. But for her to pull this off blows me away." A side note, Barry has made at least 13 assertions by his third interview with the FBI, most of them unsolicited, that he had no idea about the affair and asked agents to say they believe him. This contradicts other statements made to FBI and his actions in 2019 to find out who Suzanne is talking with and who she is seeing on her trips. Barry stated, "Did she leave that night? Because I told Joe and Derek we had sex and went to bed, and I went to sleep, and I work so hard that when I go to sleep, I'm out until 3 o'clock. S.A. Gershing asked about the hike to Foose's Lake, if that happened. Barry said, "Well, I was confused on the hike too. I thought it was that Saturday. But after talking to Joe and them, it could have been Friday. It could have been Thursday. I remember us doing that. And I thought it was Saturday. All right, everybody. Once again, I appreciate you joining us today for the live part 3. I'm going to go ahead and schedule a part 4 to review, and hopefully maybe I can get it all completed in the last section here. If you guys would click the like and subscribe button, it would be fantastic. I'd appreciate it so much. Trying to grow our new channel here. That would be just awesome. I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for listening to Crushing Crime, the review of the Barry Morphew arrest affidavit. We're going to continue this and finish with the document to get all the information. Again, you guys have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now. Thank you.